Welcome back, comrades. This is Gaming with Austin, and today we are on episode 41 of season 2 of the Utopian Community series. Let's get this world fired up. The vice president and the government shutdown happens, I'd fire every last congressman. Just like what Australia did, the Prime Minister of Australia did to every last member of Parliament. Like, many Americans don't know about the Battle of Poltava, but people in Europe, especially in Sweden, will know, and also the Ukraine and Russia will know about that. If World War III happens, what makes it hard to prevent a future war from happening? Some wars are simply over resources. The problem with representative democracies is that they're basically a constitutional oligarchy. It's basically an oligarchy, except the power of the oligarchs are limited by the Constitution. What we need is a direct democracy. The reason why we have to learn about World War II in our schools, we got to make sure that we got to make sure we don't have another Nazi Germany in our society. Many of us see the Korean War as a forgotten war. The wars of the future would be fought over even the most basic resources. Not only there would be wars over food and water, but the world would go into disarray as a result of climate change. Like, there'd be nothing governments can do to stop the crime. Regardless of how totalitarian how authoritarian the government is, they wouldn't be able to do anything about it. To make anarchy as peaceful as possible, we have to ensure that we all have enough food to meet our physiological needs. Why is it so hard to lose weight? Eating less is the easy part. The hard part is that your body's trying to keep you from losing weight. That's the hard part. Of trying to shed every last pound off your body. Your body's trying to keep you from doing that. The reason it's so hard to stop terrorism, some terrorists fight for over the most basic resources that we need for survival, like food and water. Want to know what else? Climate change is deprecating the value of all our currencies on the global level. This causing countries that are usually food secure to lose their food security, thus causing millions around the world to go hungry on a global level. Trying to prevent... If we don't wage war and there's not enough food, the entire ecosystem would collapse. When there's a scarcity of vital resources that we need for survival, our body's utmost importance is survival, which is why society allows us to be lazy. It's a way to conserve energy in the event of a famine, which explains why people should be advised not to do labor-intensive jobs in the middle of a famine. Even though diamond ore is abundant, the most expensive part comes from the labor costs. Even though diamond ore is really abundant on Earth. Why do people have to be so territorial? Murder face. 20,000. Wars of the future would be fought over the most basic resources that are crucial to your survival. Our bodies have to prioritize survival over anything else. Millions of families around the world are eventually going to be screwed by college debt rising. College... What we need to do is make sure people can get a good education. To explain why it's hard to be wealthy, a lot of it has to do with luck. Which is why capitalism ultimately fails. It goes down to survival of the fittest. If no animal followed the law of survival of the fittest, entire ecosystems would collapse. It doesn't just apply to animals, it applies to plants, and even bacteria. when you intentionally start a forest fire and control the fire to make sure it doesn't spread too far, that ash would be at a lower energy state. Which means the likelihood of a fire, for another forest fire, the Aborigines do it all the time. Like, for me, when I think of Black history, I don't just think of the history of African Americans. It's more than just that. It's about the history of Black Africans, too. It's not just about African Americans. It's also about the history about Black Africans, and also the Australian Aborigines and the Black British people. Like John Boyega, the guy who played Finn in the sequel trilogy of Star Wars. And also the Negritos of South and Southeast Asia. I believe that Black history should be international, should be celebrated internationally. Not just in the United States, but also the Commonwealth. And the rest of the world, too. If I was King of England, I'd turn the Commonwealth from the British Empire to a confederation. Just like how the European Union is a confederation. There are Black people that revolted against their slave owners. What we need to do is, if we spread out the work between everybody, we can get it done a lot more quickly. One of the most famous black actors. One of the most famous actors in African American history is Lawrence Fishburne. He's a really good actor. He's the guy that played Morpheus in the Matrix. When he was sparring with Neo. One of the most popular musicians in Black history is Michael Jackson. When he was younger, like he went from his natural skin color to being all pasty white because of a skin disorder. There's black people across every continent. Whether it be through the Great Migration that happened throughout the course of several thousand years, or the slave trade, or simply emigrating. We should respect the history. We should respect them as much as we respect our native people across every continent. We should respect them. We shouldn't insult them because it's not very nice. It's not very nice to insult them. Regardless of your skin color, we are all human. Ultimately, we are all related. Which means, I hate to say this to you, people who go against incest, but we all share a common ancestor. Regardless. One of the most famous politicians in African American history is Barack Obama. Yes, you heard that right, Barack Obama. Socially, he did a lot of good things, but economically, Donald Trump, but you may think he made America's debt worse. Trump's making it even worse. You know, once you go into debt, it's hard to get out of it. It's really hard to get out of debt once you go into debt. Obama helped legalize gay marriage in all 50 states. They're hip-hop musicians of many different ethnic groups. Not all rappers are black. There are white rappers too. Like Eminem. There are Hood films, too, which featured both Ice Cube, who is one of the founding fathers of gangster rap, and Lawrence Fishburne. One of the most famous heavy metal musicians in African American history is Howard Jones, who is the lead singer of Killswitch Engage before he resigned to make it easier for him to manage his type 2 diabetes. A lot of politicians live a hectic lifestyle. The problem with, my critique against becoming a politician is that the lifestyle of a politician tends to be kind of hectic. By the way, King Dice, many people don't know this, but King Dice is actually voiced by a woman. And King Dice is loosely based off of Cab Calloway. To explain why it's so expensive to raise children now, some of it has to do with climate change, which is causing the upkeep costs of daycares to go up around the world. Climate change plays a part in why housing costs are exploding. What is making housing so unaffordable now? Upkeep costs are one of those. Even when the home is vacant, the real estate people have to pay for the upkeep. Eventually, when we colonized the Red Planet, at first, the Martians would become a distinct ethnic group at first. Then when they isolate themselves for too long collectively, eventually they'd become a distinct species of humans. To explain what drove the Neanderthals to extinction, you gotta look at genetic pollution. Which is what's happening to the wild feline populations right now because of the feral cats. species, multiple ethnic groups inhabiting different parts of the world. Like, basically, one ethnic group splits up into different people groups in different parts of the world, which creates their own ethnic groups, then mixing them back together. That is the process of evolution. Which means one species would evolve directly into another. The future like, when humans start sharing genetic traits once more, like, as a collective, humans would go into a new species. As our genes become evenly distributed. Which means that we could celebrate our heritage everywhere. Anyways, this is it for this video. Don't forget to leave a like if you liked this video. Dislike if you disliked it. Subscribe for more. Share this with your comrades on social media. As always, thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more. And last but not least, peace out.